Oh, not much, buddy. Only everything. This
Feeling
is
good,
evening.
COVID free.
Yeah, yeah. Not coughing or feverish or nothing. This is evening Skews. Been a slow news week since the last edition. Not a lot to talk. We'll struggle through it. No, obviously that's not the case. About 3 hours or so after we signed off on last Thursday's edition of the Skews, all hell broke loose in the news cycle with pretty major stories. And of course, we're going to talk about them. We're going to get into all of it. Trump having COVID and all that. But first, the Daily Dumbass. Tonight, my honoree that I've chosen is a Fox News radio host. And I know that, picking a Fox News radio host as your Daily Dumbass is like picking Alabama to beat Arkansas State in college football. It's almost unfair, but I'm still going to do it just because I'm tickled by what this guy had to say. His name is Jimmy Failla. You hate to call a guy dumbass and then horribly mispronounce his name, but it's Failla. So I'm going to go with Failla.
He doesn't deserve a good pronunciation. Don't worry about it.
Fox News radio host, and he's got a theory on the forthcoming election. He has prognosticated the outcome of it. He says that Trump is going to win the 2020 election in a, quote, lawn slide. He's calling not for a landslide, but for a lawn slide victory for Donald Trump. Why? What is his rationale for that? Well, he and his wife recently took a road trip through the Midwest, and they saw a bunch of Trump signs in people's yards. So there you go. That's it. That's the end of the basis of his political science theory that he's come up with. He saw more Trump signs in rural Michigan than he saw Biden signs, and thus Donald Trump is going to win the election in a lawn slide, Mark.
Well, I mean, obviously, like just the way we've sorted ourselves out, where more liberal voters tend to be more urban. Of course, they have more lawn signs. They have more lawns.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Everybody knows. You look at there's a lot of things that are dumb about this. I'm a little inclined to give a bit of a disclaimer, though, because I don't want to be one of those. I'm not counting my chickens before they hatch still, okay? I'm still gun shy over the last election. I know what the numbers are. This isn't me laughing at he thinks they're going to win. It's me laughing at the specific rationale the guy uses, and also how clearly proud he was of himself for coming up with lawn slide. But yeah, like you said, the urban centers, the cities, are the clusters where most people live, and it's also the blue clusters in most states. And yeah, most people don't have yards to put signs in, first of all. Secondly, we were talking about before we started the show, I'm not judging anybody on the left or that has a sign in their yard, but and this is anecdotal, it's just my own feelings about it, but I just feel like people on the left are generally less inclined to put signs in their yard as a rule. Like I'm a commie liberal, man, and pretty much always have been. And I ain't never been a sign guy, I don't feel the need to scream it. Well, I can't say people will call me out on that immediately. I literally scream my beliefs in people's faces on the internet all the time, but I don't feel the need to use my yard for it, Yeah.
It's sort of like misunderstands how enthusiasm's working. Like this election cycle, where people are enthusiastic about voting not Trump.
Right.
Biden could literally be a corpse, which he basically is, and it would still be the vote turnout would still be super high, and candidate X behind door number 1 or whatever would still win by 10 points or whatever.
Right. Yeah. You can't put and look and I'm in favor. I like Joe Biden. I'm not like a hardcore Biden guy. I'm going to vote for him. Obviously.
Yeah, but nobody's a hardcore Biden guy. That's
right. Well, yeah, right. But I like Joe Biden. I know a lot of people. I know a lot of people on the left who they're still going to vote for him, but they're not really fans. But I like him. It's like it's not through the roof, but I do like Joe Biden. But I'm not going to have a sign for somebody that I just like. But also, you can't really get a sign for not Trump. I mean, I guess you could, but you know what I mean. Just you put not a sign for just not that guy. So there's just a lot of faults in this guy's theory, I feel like. But again, Fox News radio host, who would have thunk it?
Yeah. That's the gig though. The gig is it's not news radio. It's
right.
it's cheerleading. So it's like
you're right.
Yeah.
It's like well, I don't know. It's a different version of the same thing, but you know, like in sports journalism on ESPN and all the sports outlets, there's a certain type of sports journalism personality who they're basically like hot take artists. Like their whole entire purpose is to just say controversial shit to get people upset so that they watch. Fox News is like a pandering version of that, right?
Yeah.
Like their whole purpose is to just say the exact correct but also inflammatory thing that their base will get like passionate about. I mean, get fired up about.
It's braver when the sports talk radio dudes do it, honestly, because like Stephen A. Smith will talk shit about the Cowboys to rile up Cowboys fans. They're doing an echo chamber where there are no. They're ragging the Cowboys, who are the Democrats, I guess, in this analogy. But like none of them are listening, so they're just like it's yelling into the void about people that aren't even listening to you. So the people that are listening will be like, "Yeah, we do hate them." You know?
Did you just say the Democrats are the Cowboys in this scenario?
Yeah.
Don't put that evil on us, Mark. I know you're a Cowboys fan, but they're not. They've blown some serious leads already this year in the fourth quarter and choked it away. So
come on, man, the Cowboys season's so bad. I'd rather talk politics right now.
All right, so let's get into the major. Let's get into the major headline. Obviously, since we last spoke on camera, Trump got the Rona. He caught COVID, and like I said, that came over the wire not that long after we signed off on last week's edition. And there's just so much to say about this and the outcome of it. And I know how this is about to sound, but in my opinion, I said a version of this in the liberal redneck video I made about it. I'd felt like if you had asked me statistically the most likely outcome when it broke that he had COVID, I would have told you, I think because he's the president, he will get over it.
Yeah.
But because he is who he is, he will read all the wrong things into him having gotten over it and will turn those into all the wrong messages to send to his followers, which is pretty much what he's doing. So
well, the treatments he's on, one of the antibody treatments is not even approved for emergency use yet. It's still in trials. That's one. So he's getting that, which no one else is getting. And I guess it doesn't have any. I don't understand why everybody can't get it if it doesn't have any potential adverse side effects. So we're just here guessing. They won't tell us any actual information. It's like, was he at death's door and they were super desperate for anything, or is it just he read about it like he did hydrochloroquine and just demanded they give it to him and ordered this military doctor to shoot him full of an experimental treatment, but also. That combined with the remdesivir or whatever they're giving him, the other stuff, I saw these doctors talking about literally no other person on earth has gotten that cocktail of treatments. So they're just using the president of the United States like a dartboard to throw in syringes at.
Okay,
what else happened?
I'm the opposite of a doctor. I don't know shit about medicine and how all that works, and everything I'm about to tell you is based on random internet comments that I've read about it. But I read some comments and some posts from people purporting to be medical doctors, and they were saying that it's not as insane as it sounds with some of that. Like there might be a cocktail of two different drugs, right, that are pretty well understood, generally speaking. Like it's understood that there aren't massive risk of side effects for these particular drugs or whatever, but this particular combination of them and usage for them has not yet gone through all the proper and rigorous protocols for getting approved for this purpose. But it's still the experts and the medical professionals understand that there's not a super high risk level to it. So they are willing to use it in a case like this, for the president.
Sure. But there's very little potential downsides to it, and it's helpful. Why are all our meemaws and nanas dying?
Just because of just bureaucracy still, you know what I mean? Like they have, and for the record, I think in normal times and normal circumstances, the standards that we have for massively deploying drugs, it's good that they're rigorous and they're difficult, but they still are and they still exist. So you still have to go through the same protocols you always would, and that's a lengthy and laborious process, in order to get it to everybody's mammal.
but the actual understanding of the process is beyond me too. But like I said,
Right.
this, like there's a lower level where it hasn't cleared all the bureaucratic hurdles where its stuff is cleared for emergency use, even though it hasn't been finalized. This wasn't even approved for that yet. So like this is all very very weird, and it took Herman Cain a month to die after getting Rona.
That's another, yeah, that's a good, yeah. It was like he contracted it, and then 28 days later, he
Yeah,
died. I think it was 28. It was something like that. It's like you said, it's close to a month.
I've known people.
There's also been a lot of reports of people who seem to get better, and then like fall off a cliff in terms of their state
Yeah,
with the virus. So like it definitely seems premature. But again, like of course, who's surprised by that? I mean, in the video, everybody's seen the video by now. Like he left Walter Reed after 3 days or whatever, and he tweeted about, "I feel better than I felt 20 years ago. I feel fine." And in the video of him standing there, like you can tell that he's not in a good way. He's having difficulty breathing. Like he's clearly still sick, but it's he can't display weakness. He can't be seen to be waylaid by this virus that he has downplayed for so many
yeah.
months or whatever. I mean, it completely makes sense if you know anything about Trump, the way that he's responding to it. But also totally par for the course for Trump. It's incredibly irresponsible and misleading, and not just for his personal health, for everybody, his followers.
Yeah, I mean it's not good. And they got him shot. They should have invoked the 20th Amendment just because he's on so much steroids and it's making him manic. Yeah, it's bizarre. The whole thing is like, I mean, it's just a TV show we're all watching at this point. And what's the next act break going to be, Trey? What's the next big
Right. Yeah, the October surprise, man. It was October 1st, by the way, when you got
the
COVID,
October surprised himself. I mean, they were planning all this Justice Department fuckery around the Obama unmasking scandals and whatever to drop all this these reports before the election, and like it's going to be on page B6 of the Metro section because he can't create space for it on the front page by not being a maniac for 24 hours. It's great.
So let's backtrack a little bit to him actually getting it, the contracting of it and everything. There was this now infamous Rose Garden celebration, basically, with this picture of all these Republicans in the Rose Garden celebrating Amy Coney Barrett's nomination to the Supreme Court, and they're all just sitting in a standard seating layout, like they're not spread apart or anything. A lot of people don't have masks on and whatnot. And in the days since it became public that Donald Trump has COVID, high-profile Republican after high-profile Republican has also tested positive for it. Also, almost like it's an extremely contagious virus, But
Light bulb.
it's just wild, the sheer level of and number of people that have come out that have, now have it.
Yeah, half an hour before we came on, Stephen Miller got it. Which
Right.
is the funny thing about that was his wife had it like 5 months ago, so he didn't get close enough to his wife to catch it, but he got it from the president.
Well, also, and I guess maybe this is still like a little speculative. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like there's a good chance that Trump, I don't know, that Trump had it and knew he had it when the debate happened, or am I wrong about that? Like the timeline is a little shady, right? With
Yeah,
how it seems to have played out.
I mean, well, so the first person we found out had it was Hope Hicks, right? And that news broke Thursday, and they only announced it because a reporter had found out. They were absolutely not going to tell anybody that she had tested positive because no one would really notice if Hope Hicks wasn't at work for a little while. Then Trump announced he had it. The only reason he announced it, I'm assuming, is because he had symptoms and realized that story was going to come out. But they still haven't said when he first tested positive. And he did a Hannity hit Thursday night where he talked about where he said he didn't have it, like 3 hours before he said he did. And then his doctor on Saturday fucked up during the press conference and said he was first diagnosed more than 72 hours ago, which would have put it like Wednesday sometime. And so they showed up to the debate too late to be tested, right? And to swore they were all free and clear, which they couldn't have been. and proceeded to yell spit at saliva at Chris Wallace and Joe Biden for an hour and a half. And I mean, it's just like the behavior of a maniac, and it's very frustrating.
Right. Well, so, and then even beyond that, once everyone in America knew that he had COVID, and he went to Walter Reed for a few days, but then he did his big dog and pony show about going back to work, and he got in the like sealed SUV and went back to the White House and all this stuff, despite the fact that, I mean, he's not denying the fact that he has it, and he still has it, and he's still contagious, but he's just like going back to work basically, and that's not the best course to take, Mark. Here's a quote from Dr. Jonathan Reiner, a professor at George Washington University School of Medicine. He said, "It is completely inexplainable that the President of the United States, who is actively shedding virus in millions of particles, would walk into that building with an enormous number of staff unmasked. It is really hard to understand how no one told him not to do that. There doesn't seem to be anyone in charge of his care other than the President of the United States himself, who is the patient."
Yeah.
Which is not how it's supposed to work. And like, that's what's going on, right? Like, he's just in there demanding, "I'm the president, goddammit, I'm going back."
Was it Saturday afternoon when he took the lap around the block in the practice funeral with the SUVs?
Right, to like wave at his supporters. Yeah, and he was very defensive about being called out on that, because he was like, "Look, I gotta let these people know I appreciate them." Basically,
a bunch of Proud Boys and QAnon people who he was waving to, by the way, right? But he did a video before he did that, announcing he was about to surprise people, which we don't need to be surprised anymore, man. It's like we've been enough to be surprised enough. And the video, he talked about how he'd been walking around meeting many wonderful troops at Walter Reed. It's like, Jesus Christ, man.
I know, man. I know.
Right. The same day he announced he was diagnosed, they had a fundraiser in Bedminster, New Jersey, at his golf resort in New Jersey, where people paid $250,000 to catch COVID from the president. And not only did he not wear a mask, and he probably already tested positive by that point and knew he had COVID, the fucking fundraiser was a goddamn buffet. It was a buffet.
Well, as I told you when you first texted me this, well before the show, I said we don't have to drag buffets into this. Okay, I'm a buffet fan. I'm a supporter, but no, I'm just kidding. Obviously, that is comically absurd that they would have a buffet at a function, dude. Fuck the fact that he has COVID and everybody knows it. Do you know what I mean? Like, even if that hadn't happened already. Mm-hmm. It's ridiculous to have a buffet layout at something like that during this time, but it's also ridiculous to have people packed in like sardines sitting beside each other without masks on and all that. I mean, so it's totally, again, par for the course. It very much checks out.
I've been making a list in my head of like all the things that are probably culturally dead because of COVID, because like I remember my grandma, my great aunt when I was a kid, saving tea bags to make tea again because she lived through the Great Depression. It was just something like she just had that lived trauma in her head, so she was always going to save as much shit as she could. Like, we're going to have like a cultural germophobia for a while over this stuff.
Dude, absolutely.
Living in LA, like you'll see enough, like a lot of Asian immigrants just will wear masks when they're out in public because they have that they've been through a lot of pandemics in Asia, and they have that lived memory of I'm just wearing a mask just to make sure I don't get as little flu or colds as possible. And like, so like all the stuff that's probably dead in our country for a generation is like stuff like buffets, right? Self-serve ice cream joints.
So sad.
I was watching Sopranos, and they got that thing where they got one dessert and 4 spoons for the table. I was like, that's not happening anymore. Like, restaurants are going to have to reapportion the desserts so people still get them because they're going to serve smaller, cheaper. It's like all the stuff that's going to do to our society we haven't really worked through yet, and they're just full on just having buffets right in the middle of the pandemic. It's weird.
Yeah. I saw a picture earlier on Reddit. It was just posted as this is a cool picture. Mm-hmm. And it was from during, I don't remember the context of it, but it was during the Obama administration. It was Obama with like 4 or 5 ex-presidents. It was Obama with Bill Clinton, Jimmy Carter, and both Bushes. and maybe Reagan was there, maybe before he died. I can't remember. But it was like 4 or 5 presidents all together, and that was the purpose of posting the picture. Look, it's 5 presidents all together. And it's also a candid moment, and they're like talking to each other, and they're so fucking close together, like leaning in, talking, and like there's nothing wrong with that. Like when that happened, there's nothing wrong with that. But when I saw it, my first like knee jerk reaction without even thinking of it was like, oh, God, back up, put a mask on. Like I had to remind myself, you know what I mean, that this was pre-COVID. That wasn't a concern then, but that's where my brain automatically went to begin with.
But they're not living in our universe. That's the fucking thing. It's like they're not experiencing the pandemic at all until just this moment. Like it's very like Drew was texting the other day that he saw like way more masks after Trump got COVID in Tennessee because it's like, oh shit, this is the president got it.
Yeah, okay, but on that note, the president did get it, so maybe I don't know. It might be a net positive because if they continue to keep wearing masks just because he got it, that's good. But like we were alluding to earlier, he got it and now he's already back and he's active. He's openly saying, don't let COVID run your life. Don't be afraid of it. Get back out there. Like you got to get back out there. And so he's still sending this, very dangerous message to those exact people who at least they're putting a mask on now, some of them, since he caught it. I mean, but the takeaway from it is still not what you want to see.
There are 30-some people he's given it to now, and then the White House outbreak. That doesn't count the senators and stuff. So, like, mathematically speaking, we're approaching the number where, statistically speaking, someone's going to die of it. And because they're all elderly and, like, Chris Christie checked into the hospital like 4 days ago, and we haven't heard a peep. And somebody better check on Chris, man, because like that, no news is not good news in this situation. And he like hilariously announced that he was only being precautious because he has asthma, because asthma is his only comorbidity.
Yeah, right. Chris Christie. Yeah, if it wasn't for the asthma, he'd be fine. But no, dude, he's probably, he probably thinks it's worth it for that buffet. I'm sorry. Like,
his deathbed, he'll be thinking about them crab legs at work.
He'll be thinking about them crab legs. Like, it was worth it. Glad I didn't know. Then I'd have had to miss the dance.
This is a good time because we're laughing about this. I saw a bunch of hand wringing over whether it was okay to laugh. And like, I don't know what response people are supposed to have, but like, I don't wish bad things to happen to people because wishing doesn't do anything. Like I don't have magical powers. I can't make. So I'm not a child. I don't think my brain causes.
Well, I do like the implication of what you just said. You're like, I don't wish ill on other people because I don't have that power.
I mean,
if I had the power,
yes,
all day I'd be wishing ill on people. But unfortunately, I don't have the power to inflict ill upon others. So why waste my time wishing it?
What about Kim Jong-un? Can I wish it, Bill? If I had the power to like give him COVID with my mind from hearing, would that be a just or would that be something I should refrain from? Right. But anyway, so my point being is like one of the reasons people are laughing about this is like you ever watch the cinnamon challenge video, right?
Yeah. Yes. It's like a tablespoon or whatever of cinnamon. You're supposed to eat it with just put it in your mouth and eat it without water or whatever, and it's impossible to do.
Yes, the person always coughs it out really hilariously, and like anyway, so like what's funny about those is how it's going to end every single time. You know it's a bad idea for the person to do it, but the person has hubris. So like, no, you guys are kidding. I'm the person who can do this, and it's funny every goddamn time. So for 6 months, we've been watching the president of the United States in the middle of a pandemic basically do everything he could to catch COVID outside of mouth kissing, a hobo or whatever, and licking toilet lids, like just like whatever, and like it's been maddening to like. It's a relief to see reality reassert itself in the face of this guy's hubris, and like that's part of the relief. That's like Chekhov's gun going off. We always knew he was going to get it. He had to. Like if he didn't get it, it means it was a hoax, and every world government has been lying to us and perpetuating this shit. So it's
yeah. I mean, it's the definition of he was asking for it or he had it coming. You know what I mean? It's like when I've forgotten his name, but I'm glad I did. The Nazi guy that got punched.
Richard Spencer.
Richard Spencer. It's like when he got punched, and there was this whole thing. It was like, I'm I'm not saying liberals should go out there and just start fucking punching people. I'm not saying that. But the fact that he got punched is hilarious. Like, he's a professional punch me in the face motherfucker. Like, he begs to be punched in the face all the time. And when somebody who spends all day, every day, begging to be punched in the face gets punched in the face, I'm not going to not laugh at that, or I'm not going to, like, take the high road over that. Like, no, fuck that.
I wouldn't.
Like,
I wouldn't
you
stick
brought
up
it on yourself.
Yeah, I wouldn't stick up behind him and sucker punch him, but also I'm not going to not laugh at it, because it also, like, hand wringing over that kind of stuff is like, I mean, you and I come from a culture where people, like, fist fight in the yard recreationally. So, like, there's a certain group of people who have never been punched in the face and imagine it to be the worst thing in the world. It's like, no, I just got socked in the face. He's fine. It's fine. He's fine.
Right. Yeah. But no, it's not just COVID. Like, I mean, I'll just tell you, I've seen people in my hometown or in my wife's hometown that you see on Facebook and stuff that are like, that had previously been, this is a hoax type people. Don't be sheep. Don't wear the mask. This is a hoax. Stop believing it. Fuck COVID. That whole thing the whole time. And then they caught COVID. Like, I'm supposed to not have some Schadenfreude over that? Like, yeah, of course I'm going to, and I'm not going to fucking apologize for it either. It also is like that, Mark Twain quote, which, who knows, maybe one of those that's apocryphal he didn't actually say, but the quote is, I've never wished death on another human being, but I have read many obituaries with great joy, or what I have enjoyed many obituaries. It's like,
yeah,
can't help it.
When people deny this thing, get sick with it. It's like, we gave you the information. You had the information. Like,
right.
You told yourself comforting lies, and now you're dead over it.
Well, it's also like you said, I mean, even if you just take it from like a purely logical perspective, that's the desirable outcome for someone on our side, because like you said, if they do spend all day preaching that it's not a big deal and it's not real and you don't have to take it seriously or whatever, and then they don't ever get it at all or ever have to deal with it, then they're vindicated by that. And it just perpetuates their bullshit belief even further, Like, yeah. It's almost important that these people get COVID. I mean, because of the damage they do otherwise.
He took time during the debate to shit on Joe Biden for wearing a mask.
Yes, he did.
At a time when he probably had diagnosed with fucking COVID,
yeah.
And was standing 9 feet from him. But the reason people like I've watched enough, sports, they'll cut away to like the guy in the studio who's by himself and he's wearing a mask. And like, I know intellectually the mask isn't doing anything right there, but they're performing responsibility to signal to people, to habituate it, to normalize mask wearing, to be responsible, to show people that you can do it and it's fine, right? That's so Biden, yes, he's 30 feet away from people wearing a mask, because that's what a leader should do, is demonstrate responsible behavior. Trump's not going to wear a mask to demonstrate responsible behavior. Do you know the only other thing he could do to let people know how serious this is to be on a ventilator for a little bit, so he can make that sacrifice for his country, I think.
Yeah. So, all right. Speaking of the debate, him and Joe Biden up there, and we talked all about the first debate last Thursday. But as it relates to this, Trump has already said publicly that he is very much looking forward to the next debate, i.e., he has no intention of trying to delay it or sit it out or anything like that.
It's exactly 9 days from now, by the way. 9 days from now. You're supposed to quarantine 14 days after your last symptoms.
Right. And he definitely still has symptoms. So, My question is, I don't know, how do you handle it? Again, he's the president of the United States. If he sticks to that, what should you do if you're Joe Biden, or if you're I don't remember I don't know who's hosting the next one, if it's CNN or whoever is hosting the next debate, or the venue itself. But if you're the venue, if you're the entity hosting it, or if you're Biden, the opponent, what do you do if he's still steadfast on having it?
I mean, if Biden shows up, like, all his talking points are going to be to point out how irresponsible Trump's been handling COVID, right? What bigger statement could he make about how irresponsible Trump's been around COVID than by not showing up because it's irresponsible to do? So just don't show up. Like,
I mean, I agree with you. That's what I think too. It's like, because of the specific circumstances of what's going on, you can totally, you're not going to have to worry about appearing weak or whatever. I mean, other than to Trump's base, but fuck them, you ain't getting them no way. And to any other rational human being, you're not going to have to worry about appearing weak or anything like that by refusing to participate in it. You're going to appear, smart, rational, reasonable, right? So, yeah, no, I agree. You absolutely shouldn't. If Trump insists on showing up, yeah, don't do it. You say this is not, the protocols say it's not safe to be, this around someone, to put yourself around other people at this stage of the game when you know you have COVID, or I'm not gonna be party to it.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, it seems fairly straightforward to me, but I can't think of like do you remember 2008 campaign, Obama, McCain, when Lehman Brothers went under, AIG and all that shit, and the economy collapsed. Before that, Obama and McCain were basically roughly tied, I think. But then, of course, it became started turning the other way once the millstone of the economy was being hung around the Republican Party. So McCain made a big show of like suspending his campaign and then like rushing back to Washington to lead the response, which was weird because he was just a senator. He had no like real authority, but trying to demonstrate that I'm the responsible adult in the room and I know how to handle a crisis. And then like a day and a half later, when he realized he couldn't do anything and the polls were going the wrong direction, to get back on the campaign trail. And now he was unsuspending his campaign, but he was trying to look statesman-like, but he looked like flustered and out of control, right?
Yeah.
If you're like a swing voter or whatever we're calling these people now, haven't made up their minds yet. It looks, if you just started paying attention, that looks crazed and irresponsible, right? So, like, what all the shit Trump's doing looks manic and crazed. Like, it just looks irresponsible, even if you don't care about politics.
Well, I mean, yeah, no, you're right. It looks that way to the, like you said, the swing voters or whoever they are that you call them. But I think to his base, and it's like pretty much all he's ever cared about is pandering to and catering to his base, even though they're not enough by themselves for him to secure victory. Still, that's always been his number one priority. And I think to them, it looks strong. It looks like, manning up, pushing through it, not letting it fucking define you or set you back or whatever. And that's all dumb.
That's not
but I do think it works on them. That's
not like any of the polling. I mean, it's like
even among his people, like even among like Trump's most fervent supporters, they ain't buying it.
Literally the last thing I saw about it was like 70% of people agree that said that Trump's been handled COVID irresponsibly. Now that's an aggregate thing for policy and his personal behavior, but like 70 eats into his. Well,
I've always thought that like 30% is roughly what the number of actual hardcore cannot be reached Trump people are. Like it's hard for me to accept that it's 48% or whatever.
No, it's like as far as the people that wear a MAGA hat and get in a fist fight at a gas station over some
yes.
wearing a mask or whatever. That's a very small segment of the population. I mean, that's like. Let's put it. I think it's the high end 20%, right? And the rest of the people are going to vote for him are going to vote because they always vote Republican and they don't trust Democrats, or they're pro life or pro gun or some other reason they're compromising on him. But it's just like it's not a big enough coalition to win an election this time in this environment.
Okay, so speaking of seemingly ill-advised political moves he's making lately, and I know we could spend hours going over them, but a relevant and topical one, he basically shut down the stimulus talks, said like we're not going to have any stimulus negotiations until after the election. So already it's stretched on for way too long. People are hurting. They've been hurting the whole time, but it's already stretched out for months at this point. And he says, fuck it, not going to happen until after the election, which is still in, another month from now.
I mean, like, let's say the real world implications for a second before we get to the politics of it. Like, people are missing rent, mortgages, getting evicted, their businesses are going under, and that's the real world stuff here. Politics wise, here you have, we've never had this dynamic before where like the opposition party is begging the president to let them improve his reelection odds, and he will not let them.
Right. Yes, because especially Republicans, it's the economy. What you know what I mean. They stand on the economy. They're the fiscal party or whatever, And yeah, Democrats are actively trying to help the economy by just helping people that are struggling during the stimulus, which would be a net positive for the Republicans. You would think if it was effective, in the effect it had on the economy, and he's just not having it.
And
Why?
in his
Why isn't he?
Fox News Al Bird brain, the closest thing I could figure out for a reason is part of the one of the things that Democrats are insisting on is because like the federal government can print money and borrow money, state governments, municipal governments can't. Right? They're barred by law. I mean, the municipal governments can raise bond issues or whatever, but that requires an election and all this different shit. So like they're on the verge of having to lay off a bunch of like municipal and state workers in the middle of a pandemic because they've run out of goddamn money. And Fox News has been framing this as a blue state bailout,
right?
Just because Democrats aren't in favor of starving all forms of government constantly, but the brutality of this is like blue states. Like, I mean, the big ones anyway. Like California is the richest state in the country, and so is New York. They have rainy day funds. Now California is eventually going to exhaust theirs, but like they're mostly fine. It's Mississippi and Alabama,
right? Well, that's always been the case. Like the red states, my beloved South in particular, but the red states, they take way more money proportionally from the federal government than the blue states do, right? Compared to the amount that they put back into it.
Yeah,
like, there are welfare states. A lot of them are the red states, right? So any kind of bailout the government gives is not going to be a blue state bailout, unless you like put out a fucking forest fire or whatever instead of telling them to rake. But that's another story. Yeah,
I mean, I don't like frame it that way because it felt like I don't. The government should spend money helping Alabama and Mississippi. I'm in favor,
absolutely.
But like, there's no the only areas that are economically justifiable for existing are big cities because there's enough commerce and stuff going on there. The road that goes by my mom's house has no market-based reason to exist. If you made it a toll road, it would have never been built because there's no reason for a road to be there because there's so few people go down it, right? So like this purely economic logic way of thinking is like economic suicide for red states, but it doesn't stop people from thinking that way. I mean, like my dad he worked construction, right? He made all of his entire living off state contracts and would then vote for people who'd cut state highway budgets. It was like really weird and bizarre. And
right. No, because I agree with you completely. Yeah, to be clear, the government should spend money, like you said, on Alabama, Mississippi, and Tennessee or whatever. You should help people out that are struggling, but it's frustrating when the leadership in those same states and a lot of the electorate, which supports the leadership, turns right around and spits in the face of the very notion, basically, while still benefiting from it. Like, that's rough.
Small towns are government make work projects. They are. They just are. Economic, like my whole family, my mom and my sisters both work for educational institutions. My brother-in-law works for the highway department. I already told you my dad, he worked for a private company, but it was a state, made all their money on state contracts. Like you can't throw a rock in a small town and hit somebody that works for forestry or the school district or the state highway department or whatever. Those are all the jobs,
Dude, some of the best. I said it before as a joke in one of my videos, but it was true. Like my hometown where I grew up, Salina, is so poverty stricken and everything. Like you were considered a rich kid, right? If your parents were still married and like one of them carried the mail, you know what I mean, and the other one was a teacher.
Yeah.
Like one of them carried the mail and the other one's a teacher. They were still married. You were a rich kid. You were privileged pretty much in my hometown. And I know that sounds ridiculous, but that's the fucking truth. And some of the very best jobs in my hometown were all, now that you mention it, governmental jobs, working for the city, working for the county. I remember I worked summers my senior year and my freshman year of college. I worked for the Clay County Highway Department. And that was a good job, like not just for me, like for a kid, for anybody, what I mean?
Yeah.
All right. So a couple things real quick before we get to the comments. Want to just at least briefly mention the polls, the latest polls. They continue to go up in terms of favorability for Joe Biden. I think it was CNN, their most recent poll, I believe it was 16 points, Biden's lead was. And also the other thing that's encouraging is that early voting's open now and everything, and the numbers are ridiculous, totally historic and unprecedented. I think there's a lot of factors for that. I think COVID definitely plays into that a lot. But either way, people are voting in unprecedented numbers, which generally speaking is good.
The
So,
last
but don't get complacent. Keep it up.
no,
I like
everybody
it.
vote no matter what. But like this is the high note we're trying to end on to make everybody feel better because we're all very chastened by the 2016. But although people have sort of memory hold it and remember what happened wrong, like the polls predicted Hillary would win the national popular vote by 2 to 3%. That's exactly what happened. It was the black swan event for how the vote shook out in what states they were in.
Yeah.
And the 90%, her winning probability being 90% was based upon those two. 90%. How do I put this? Statistics aren't predictions; they're probabilities. A 10% chance of something happening is still a 10% chance of something happening, right? So, like it's like people get mad at the weatherman when it's like, oh, you said it wasn't going to rain today. No, I said it was a 70% chance it wouldn't rain. There's still a 30% chance it would rain, and that's what happened, right? If 3 days in a row, it's a 30% chance of it raining. It's going to rain one of those days, statistically speaking. So, like, everyone got very chastened by that. But there's a few things that are different this year. One, the early voting stuff that Trey was just talking about. These numbers are a couple days old, but I saw a few days ago, like by this time in Florida, early mail voting, it had been like 10,000 votes. It was almost 500,000 at the same point. And it was like the returns were like 250,000 Democrat, 130,000 Republican, and 40,000 Independent. The one we just saw today, let me read these numbers to you because they're pretty astounding. This is early in-person voting in Hamilton County, Ohio, which is a very important swing state. Trump cannot win without Ohio. All right, so let's put it that way. So the first day of early in-person voting, 2008, 800 voters. 2012, 800 voters. 2016, 900 voters. 2020, by 4 p.m. today, 2,500 voters. All right, that is a triple increase in 4 hours before the polls close. So that's whatever's happening this year is going to be unprecedented one way or the other. So there's almost no point in trying to like compare it to past years,
right?
Because the pandemic and because people are fucking pissed. But also, like, there's some explainer about why Biden's lead is different from Hillary's lead in 2016. Around this point was when the Access Hollywood tape came out.
Yeah.
So
the grab them by the pussy stuff.
Yeah. So a bunch of Republicans started telling pollsters they weren't going to vote for Trump around that point. So that's when Hillary's lead was at its biggest. Now, they were lying because eventually 3 weeks later, after James Comey did his fuckery, they remember why they hate Hillary and they went back to Trump, right? But when you see these leads for Biden, know that baked into those polls is Trump already has 90% of Republican votes. Like they've already come back to him, and this is still how low he is. He doesn't have anywhere to get votes from. So you can look at these differently than you did 2016, still go vote, but you can take the shotgun out of your mouth. That's what I'm saying.
Right. Well, I've been saying the whole time, ever since 2016, and for most of that time, this has been just me being hopeful or trying to be hopeful. But I feel like now we're starting to see it actually play out. At least I hope so. But that there was very much this sort of element amongst a lot of people on the left in 2016 of having the luxury of not having to get out and vote, because there wasn't that enthusiasm for Hillary or whatever. And I think there were plenty of people on the left who thought, well, I don't want to hold my nose and vote for Hillary Clinton. And in this election, I don't have to, because look at her opponent. Like, he's not going to win. I'm not worried about it. And they were able to sit at home. And I know this is an overly simplistic view, but still, I think that it was a real thing that was happening. And I have thought ever since then, ever since election night 2016, I have thought and hoped that particular phenomenon would be mitigated in the 2020 election, for no other reason than us getting punched in the face the way that we did. Like making people realize you can't be complacent, you can't just sit at home. And it's been pounded, the point has been pounded home over and over again ever since then. But I feel like with the numbers that we're seeing already, the way you're talking about them, it's encouraging to me because it looks like it's actually playing out that way, which I find reassuring. But again, got to keep that up, got to keep it going between now and then. But
I don't like blaming like leftists, voting third party or sitting out for Hillary losing, because the bigger problem, much bigger problem, was like regular people who aren't that interested in politics, just having no enthusiasm for doing it. Like
Yeah.
non-voters are huge, are a way bigger portion of the population than leftists who won't vote for Biden. Like they just
That's
are.
true. That's true.
So you can go take a bus to a church and convince 20 people to go vote with you, and you've more than made up for all the leftists in your town who are going to like make a stink about not voting for Biden. So yeah.
Yeah, no, you're right, and I agree with that. I just think that what you just said is true, but I also think my opinion, it's also true that had that not been a thing in 2016, that Trump wouldn't have won. It's like you called it a black swan, but there was so many, the fucking bullshit stars aligned so perfectly in 2016 for him to end up winning, and there were so many different factors you can point to that seem at least in 2020 to be different or not present this time around. The suburbanites, white women, disenfranchised or the discouraged leftists we're talking about, all these different like small factors that contributed when you put them all together in 2016 are not in play the same way now as they were then.
He is absolutely the luckiest motherfucker to ever walk the face of the earth.
Right.
And like he's so lucky that it would not shock me if like a tornado wiped out every polling place in Detroit on election day. But the things that had to go right for him to be in the White House for him, it's like it was a series of like he just rolled snake eyes, rolled straight Yahtzees like 30 times in a row, and eventually the law of numbers says that he has to run out of luck eventually. If it's not with COVID, it's going to be an election day. I can't wrap my mind around a universe where the waters just keep parting for this dude for the 75th year in a row.
I hear you, but I just want to say that like I'm still like I'm optimistic, and I'm trying to remain optimistic, and that's behind all the shit I'm saying right now, but it's not the same thing as me taking it for granted or saying we got it in the bag. I just want to put that out there for superstition's sake or whatever, because I was the same way in 2016 I really wasn't worried about it, honestly, even being from where I'm from. I was talking out both sides of my mouth because I was telling people like, no, hey, this is a real thing that you should treat more seriously. But at the same time, I was like, but at the end of the day, I don't think he's actually going to win, But then we saw what happened, so trying not to do that again.
Speaking of comparing Democrats to the Cowboys, if there's a way to blow a 20-point fourth quarter lead, the Democratic Party will find it.
Absolutely.
I mean, like, it's a situation where flipped, Mitch McConnell would absolutely not be trying to give President Biden a huge stimulus package a month before the election.
All right, so we're going to the comments now. Ada Napoli says Putin will get involved. And I'm assuming she left off the word mistake. Make no mistake, Putin will get involved. Been proven now that they, meddled in the last election. They're meddling now and have been the whole time, right? Like, what are the odds of them coming through with some major cyber fraud coup or whatever that could actually take this out?
I mean, they could. So 2016 was relatively low cost for an intelligence operation. Plus, like what the stuff they did was like, it would be hard to make the pitch to the American people as an act of war, right? Like dumping emails on the internet. There's no WikiLeaks this time. There's no DNC hack. We all understand what's happening on the internet. Everybody knows what a Russian bot looks like when they see it. It's gotten kind of comically funny. Of course, they're meddling they're doing stuff on Facebook, starting groups and trying to amp people up. But like, people just burn out. I don't think it's going to work. They could try hacking actual vote totals, but like that's a dangerous game for them because you got to remember Russia's a weak, broke country. They're not a real world power. And we could make life absolutely miserable for Vladimir Putin if he fucks around the election and Biden still gets in power. He's looking at not a great outcome for him. So he has less stuff to do and it's much higher risk. So I bet the Facebook fuckeries are you're going to see this time. Be my guess.
All right, believe this is my dear Uncle Tim. If it's not, it's a coincidence because Tim Radford is beloved Uncle Tim's name, and I cannot tell y'all just how Uncle Tim-y this comment is. He says, if Trump goes on a ventilator, will it be called forced air one? I
hadn't heard that one yet, Uncle Tim. That's a good joke.
Hey, that is classic Uncle Tim for you, man. He loves some wordplay, buddy. Puns, all that stuff. He's a huge fan. Love you, Uncle Tim. Let's see. Claudio Armando Castanelli says, not be any undecided by now. Who the hell? And it's in all caps. And I agree with that sentiment completely. I've said it before in recent episodes. I know those people exist, but I'm with you, man. I don't know how in this particular election you can still be like waffling.
Well, I mean, Mr. Castanelli, I'll put it this way. There are people out there who don't pay close attention to politics or watch the news every day or go on Twitter or Facebook, who like spend time with their kids and go fishing and go to the movies and are in bowling leagues. And I like to call these people mentally healthy. So they typically, polling data usually shows they start paying attention after Labor Day. Now, obviously, they've been aware of the pandemic and stuff. Everybody knows about it. But the people just don't really look into stuff until they have to. And then, like, this is when they have to. So, I don't know.
All right. Brandy Ray Sheffy, sorry, Brandy, says, I can't tell the difference anymore between Russian bots and QAnon dummies. And I'm sure there's a shitload of overlap there.
Yeah. The Venn diagram there is almost a circle.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see. Sarah Ream says Instagram is still flooded with bots. They're all still flooded with bots, but I think Mark makes a very valid point when he says, like, people now are way more like, you know, you see them and you notice it. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't, everybody's so much more aware of it now, and plenty of people still are not, but it's just more of a thing in the general consciousness that people notice it, so it won't have the same effect, you would think.
I mean, I stopped arguing with them in 2016, but like I've seen people like you'll see people like somebody will, like there'll be a Facebook argument and somebody will make a point and then someone will reply like, "As good American, Trump love, go." and then a person will start writing back to them and angry posts, and if somebody was going, "Hey, you leave him alone, it's a bot," and everybody just sort of leaves. It's like people know how to recognize, you know.
Mark, I'm 100% leaning on you to respond to this because I'm not entirely sure. Karen Hedgespeth May says Trump's not doing the stimulus so that the Senate has to confirm SCOTUS. You know what Karen's getting at there, Mark, or no? What's the rationale?
Yeah, when Trump posted his Twitter thread earlier today announcing that he was calling off the negotiations with the House over this stimulus, he framed it as creating more time and space for McConnell to push through his Amy Coney Barrett.
Okay.
So,
I put up a comment from Annette Williams saying basically the same thing, asking the same question. So I guess, yeah.
Yeah.
So do you think that's what we talked earlier about, like it being almost political suicide to do that, to kill the stimulus? And so what's the rationale? Is this what it is? Like it's just all about getting her pushed through?
I mean, like, first of all, the bill's already written. McConnell could hold a vote in 5 minutes, and the president can sign it an hour later. So, like, it's not a time constraint thing. The House approved it in May. So it's a bullshit reason, and also like as far as politics goes, Trump's pretty politically astute. Right. I mean, he's a salesman his whole life. He knows how to tell people what they want to hear. Right. Which is why Democrats are so frustrated with him, because they don't want to promise people anything. And here's a guy promising people the moon and they think it's out of bounds or unfair. Right. Actually, now he's not going to follow through anything or do anything for people, but he knows how to promise people shit. He knows people want to be promised. So, Trey, stop looking at yourself.
Yeah.
You look good, man. Yeah,
Tammy Thompson says, Trey, stop looking at yourself. It's obvious. Listen, what I see, which I think is what you see too. Mark is literally right beside me, and I've got my camera, right between me and Mark, and I'm just trying to keep an eye on things. That's all. I'm not trying to just stare myself down while I talk. But
Trey's
keeping me honest.
The show at the same time he's hosting it, so it's like in the cockpit of a fighter jet over there, toggling a lot of switches.
This is exactly like being in the cockpit of a fighter jet. Thank you, Mark.
Yeah, man, you're badass. Anyway, so like but did they go like so he seems to think that his traditional nomination is very popular, but like again, 70% of people think that the next president should this justice shouldn't be picked after the election. So like he has no winning moves here, but he just keeps like leaning into the fail. It's very weird.
Right. Okay. Amy Hyken says, "Is there any chance that Trump doesn't actually have COVID?" And I highlighted this because late Thursday night, when it first popped up, I saw a lot of people speculating like, I bet this is bullshit. I bet this is a calculated move because what he's going to do is he's going to catch it, beat it easily and quickly, and then use that to downplay it or whatever. And the second half of that, again, is pretty much how it's playing out. But having said that, no, I don't believe for a second that he doesn't actually have it. And my main thing was from the very first moment it popped up, I believed it to be true just because it's very out of character for Trump, in my opinion, to admit to any kind of perceived weakness or whatever you want to call it. Like I can't see Donald Trump admitting he is sick with anything personally, like and also in the information society we live in today and the way things work, it's just not, it ain't worth doing that, in my opinion. And from the videos, he's sick. He's got it. It's real.
Like if he was, so I've been trying to put my head in the mind of where, like how this conspiracy theory would play out, right? Because one, I wouldn't put it past him to fake having COVID for a day and a half to see if he'd get a sympathy bounce in the polls out of it, but he wouldn't go to the hospital.
Right. Yeah.
Two, there's no like upside to giving it to Kelly McEnany and Stephen Miller, like having all them pretend to have it, have 3 congressmen who are on the Judiciary Committee who might not be able to show up for the hearings to vote through Amy Coney Barrett. Like none of it makes any sort of strategic sense. Plus, it makes him look like shit. Like the ad writes themselves. How can he keep you safe if he can't even keep it out of the White House? Like it's like there's no political upside to this, and there's no the sympathy presidents get for getting sick is from stuff that isn't their fault, right? If you do irresponsible shit and then get it, people see that and they go like, "You moron! I don't feel bad for you." It's weird.
Yeah. Aaron McNeil Coticelli says, "Does anyone else think Trump looks like shit?" No, Aaron. No, nobody else.
You know what's funny about the cartoons that the right wing draws where he's all jacked and playing football and stuff?
He's playing football, right. He's like stiff arming somebody on his way into the end zone and whatnot.
Just shirtless and jacked with a bunch of babes in his arm. It's like, I don't know what you guys are seeing when you look at him, man. But man,
yeah, no, he has looked like shit for as long as I can remember, having seen him. Quick, I guess sort of a PSA for the tour here. David Hatley says, "Trey, when are you coming back to Ohio?" For anybody that doesn't know, me, Corey, and Drew, the Well Read Tour, we're just basically we've hit the pause button and are going to keep it pressed until, things are better with COVID. I don't have to go into all the reasons why. You guys understand. We just don't feel like it's the right thing to do to have gatherings. And I know all of y'all would show up and you'd follow the rules and you'd have your mask on and all of that, but there's just too many other factors and everything involved, and we talked about it a lot and we weren't comfortable with doing it. So for now, we're just, believe me, we want to tour, we want to do shows, we want to get back out there, but for now we're just waiting until hopefully the world unends itself. But we'll see how it goes. We'll reevaluate it.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see what we got here. Find one to end on if we can find it. I'm looking through a bunch of stuff over here. Donna Lawson says he looks sick to me. I agree with you. He looks obviously sick. Carmen Michaela says maybe he'll push himself too hard. Wonder what outcome Carmen's hoping for there if he does push himself too hard. Push himself to death, maybe that'd be fine. All righty. from YouTube, Donalena #1 says Trump hates admitting that he caught the Rona. He's trying to convince people that he's so tough that he's already recovered from it or whatever. And I feel like I agree with you. I don't think he never wanted to be in a position to have to say that he caught it. It bothers him to have to admit it, but making the best of a bad situation for him is, hey, look how good I'm doing. I'm totally fine. I feel better than I did 20 years ago, you know?
I mean, I would, yeah, I mean, I would, I mean, it's the Dexa, the steroids on, like, with his age and comorbidities, it's like, at that on Friday, they're saying, yeah, he's got like people that go on this with at his age, with his BMI and stuff, he has like a 1 in 4 chance of dying. So it's like he's not out of the woods, man. And I wouldn't be surprised if he gets back to the hospital once or twice more.
I like this question just made me smile. Chris Fazio says, so does having COVID ruin his chance at the Nobel Peace Prize? Which, you know, I don't know. We'll see. Hey, look, he's had the most peace, man. He's the most peace. Everybody knows it. Biggest peace you've ever seen. Most peaceful guy. Most peaceful administration.
He was nominated by a couple different people, but he was nominated by a legislator in Norway. He was a Trump supporter. Why is Norway have Trump supporters? What the fuck is going on, man?
I don't know, man. They've got to have it. That's got to be one of those, like we were talking earlier about the Stephen A. Smith, Skip Bayless types, like the professional contrarians, even in politics. You know what I mean? They got to have their, like, I mean, I don't know shit about Norwegian politics, obviously, but I assume it's just he's a maverick, you know? He don't play by the rules, and the best way to illustrate that is by being a big Trump guy, I would assume, but I don't fucking know. All right. Well, this was fun. It's a good time. We'll see. We'll come back Thursday, and we'll see y'all here, and we'll see if Trump's dead or anybody's dead or what's going on. So, yeah, we'll be back in 48 hours.
Thoughts and prayers. Thoughts and prayers.
Thoughts and prayers. Thoughts and prayers. Prayers up, everybody. All right. See you next time.